Good morning, Gwenny. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Let's see, do we look good? Close your eyes. I'm going to zoom. Okay. I keep checking out the window for the mailman because I keep hearing car doors and I have a package coming. I love package days. It's so exciting. Even if I know it's in the package, like I ordered it from Amazon, I still love package days. So you guys seen in the picture that this is what I worked on yesterday. I'm not gonna make this version, but I wanted to see what it looked like. Oh, pardon me while I yawn. I'm so tired today. It's very gloomy out today. We're having a sea fog day. And basically, if you're not on a waterway area, sea fog is when you start out the day and it's nice and foggy, but when the sun comes up, all that fog goes over onto the Gulf of Mexico, and it's going to sit there all the way through the night into tomorrow. Hello, everyone's coming in. Hello, everyone. Hello, good morning, good morning. Happy Saturday. Hey, look, I did my nails. One of you amazing people sent me these flamingo stick-on nails. You're going to see them now, but I'll probably have to show them again later. It's the very first time I put on sticker nails. So as you can see, they're a little bit past the cuticle. You know, the first time you do something, it takes a little bit to get used to and to figure it out. And this morning, my right hand was shaking, so I couldn't get them on right. And then, of course, my left hand did pretty good, so I did okay on these. But I could have done a little bit better, been more professional, and did a little cuticle thing where you push it. Thank you, Helly. Thank you. Happy birthday to me. Super Bowl Sunday. About every 5 to 7 years, my birthday's on the Super Bowl. It's really kind of fun. Hello, hello. Good evening from England. Yes, Gwenny, tomorrow's my birthday. I'm going to be 52 years old. Yeah, I thought they were really cute. They're from, I almost want to say fishing company, but that can't be right. I put them somewhere. I've already cut them all apart. As I said, they were sent to me as a birthday gift. Lush, maybe? I don't know. But they're really cute. They came in this little package. They are tickled pink flamingo. And maybe Lily and Company. Now that makes much more sense. Lily and something. But they were really fun. Lily and Fox. There you go. Lily and Fox. That's where they're from. Ha ha ha. Oh, I'm going to close the door so the cats don't pester us. Had to make sure the front door was locked because it feels really weird to close the door because I can't hear anything that's going on in the rest of the house. So, thank you, thank you, thank you, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, the nails were really fun. Your birthday's tomorrow too? Woohoo! Happy birthday to everyone. All the February birthdays, there's got to be more than just us. There tends to be a lot of February birthdays. But there's still, I have some left over. And you know, as a scrappy person I am, it comes, for those of you that haven't seen sticker nails before. So you get this whole sticker thing, right? And you hold it at one end and you stick it on and then you use a file to trim it off. Well, then you got this other half that you didn't use. So most of the time it's just a mess. But this one is pretty big still. So there's that, the little heart flamingos. But then they give you 14, so I have a couple extras. So I can always like paint my nails and then put these on the ones on top of the nail polish, or just don't use nail polish on them. Hello, hello, thank you, thank you. I'm going to have myself a little private Super Bowl party tomorrow. My kids are all busy. Miranda's got, one of her best friends is getting married tomorrow, so that's exciting. thank you. They were really fun, and they're supposed to last 1 to 2 weeks, and if you put a clear coating on them, and you don't do crazy things, and you put a little bit of the nail polish on the ends of the nail too, you could keep them for 3 to 4 weeks. We'll see. It's getting to the point where I'm going to be starting to dig in the garden and pulling up weeds and stuff in the grass, so I don't know how long they're going to last, even with gloves on. Well, Vicky, you probably did begin at 11 o'clock because you're an hour behind me, right? How's my son doing, Helly? He is doing amazing. Justin and I went out to a Sprouts supermarket because he wanted to get some low sodium sausages and kielbasa, which we were able to get. We couldn't find the low sodium jalapeno mustard he wanted. But I tell you, every time I see him, even when it's just a couple weeks apart from when I saw him last, he looks so different. I could barely recognize him. If you okay, this is going to sound weird, but if you chop his head off, which is kind of rude, but if I couldn't see his head, I would never recognize him by his body. He's lost so much weight. He looks amazing. Oh, we're already talking lunch. What did Helly eat for lunch? Good morning, Jody. Jody made it. Oh, turn down the volume, Robin. A little warning, my internet has been being really weird lately. Now, my phone is using the Verizon internet, so we're going to be fine there. But if something happens, I may lose you guys in the chat. So if all of a sudden you hear me talking and I'm not answering anyone's questions, it's probably because the internet's gone down and I didn't notice it right away. Just trying to bring you guys up on my tablet. We have a couple, I'm going to give a few minutes before we get into, I have some administrative work, things to talk about these live streams before we start in on our project. I hope everyone is doing well and you're not freezing. Get all the chats up going. For whatever reason, the little Chromebook, it likes to just shut the chat off every now and then, which is why I have to have the tablet. The little tablet, Samsung tablet, is so old, the video doesn't always keep up with it. And then the Chromebook, the video is great, but the chat doesn't always keep up with everybody. So it's crazy. I'll just turn off the picture then, since we don't need to see it. Hello, hello. 4 degrees with a wind chill of -5. Brr. Oh, Helly, I'm one of those people that I'm a snacker. I like to eat every couple times every few hours throughout the day. I only eat little small amounts just to keep me going. Because if I go the full time, I could never make it from breakfast because I get up about 4 or 5 in the morning. And then I eat dinner 12 hours later at 5 o'clock at night. I would never make it all the way through. Ooh, a whole 18 degrees. We are right now, I think it's 75 right now. We're supposed to be going up to 80 this afternoon, but it's really gray and hazy, and that sea fog is just making it kind of nasty. There's no sun coming in the house, so the house gets a little chilly, even though it's beautiful outside. Well, we're so glad you can be here. Nitchy, or is it Nikki? Is that with a CH or with a K? Brazil. Yeah, everyone's getting some really, up north they're getting some pretty cold weather. They're getting lots of snow and stuff. Even northern Florida is actually cold. We had, Nikki, okay, thank you. We had frost. We had frost on, what's today, Saturday? So we had frost Friday morning. And then it got so hot in the house from the sun in the backyard on Friday evening, I had to turn the AC on. So I went from the heater on Friday morning to the air conditioning on Friday night. And I know, yeah, we're spoiled down here in Florida, but it's just been crazy weather. Texas Gulf Coast got the 50s. I really like the mid to upper 70s. Maybe up to 81, 82. That's kind of nice weather down here. allows you to get out during the day, and yet you can still usually get away with wearing a pair of jeans or something. Helly, is there mountains in the middle of Denmark to make that difference happen? Oh, let me get my sewing machine ready. I'm running a little behind today because, of course, I was playing. So how many people are going to be making the project with us today, or are you guys just going to hang out and chat and maybe work on something of your own? Oh, the meds keep your, yeah. Drives me crazy when I have to go on steroids and stuff, because then it's just like you're constantly hungry, and then when you come off of it, you're never hungry. Diana G is going to be making one. I have 4 all set to go. And I chose my heart fabrics. And I've got my backing fabrics. Bedazzled gloves. Oh yeah, no, my problem, Gwenny, is I chat and forget to sew. Oh, knitting a bed throw, that sounds exciting. I really like knitted and crocheted big blankets and stuff until I sit down to do it. I usually run out of steam halfway. I can do a baby quilt or baby throw blanket or something like that, but needle and all. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't clean out my sewing machine, so hopefully there's not too much gunk in there. Well, then plus you got to take your pills with like a full glass of water, so at least 8 ounces of water. So if you're doing that every few hours, then you're just crazy. But Vicky, if she sews, then she can't chat. I think with the live streams, it's like I'm just a background noise. That most of the time when I go onto a live stream, whatever the person's making, that's great. I do watch what they're making, but I'm more in tune with the chat and, you know, chatting around with the friends or seeing what everyone else is doing. I have knit that, Helly. I have a knitting pattern that I've done it for. I made the little wire rim glasses and everything. It was annoying and a pain in the butt to make because I used too small of the knitting needles, but it was the cutest thing. I am going to be going a couple more chats before we get going and talking about what we're doing today. I've decided that with my miter square blanket with all the little squares, that I'm probably going to take it apart until it's the size of a pillow and turn it into a pillow cover. If not, just take it apart completely. But I love the miter square, so I'm going to go up to Michael's, and every now and then I'm going to periodically just buy different skeins of yarn. I haven't decided if I want it to be all one color palette or maybe just a variety of grays with some pops of a pastel pinks and purple through it. And I'm just going to do it in a worsted weight and make the bigger squares so it goes so much faster, and I actually have the finished product when I'm done. And then when I do that, I can do the tutorials that you guys have been asking for. The knitting needles and the yarn will be much larger, so it'll be easier for you to see. Okay, I think we have just about everyone here that starts out. We're at like 40 to 50 people watching, and that's about where we usually start out at the day. More people will join us in later. If you're catching this on the replay, there's some important stuff in the beginning. First of all, for those that weren't here, I received a birthday gift for my birthday tomorrow. These little press-on flamingo nails. The very first time I've ever used, here we go, let's see. Oh, right in your face. First time I've ever used the little press-on stickers for your fingernails, so that was really fun. I did that this morning. It took me about 45 minutes to do these, so instead of getting prepared for everything, I did that. But I have an important announcement, and it's going to be annoying for some of you, and it's kind of annoying for me, but there's nothing I can do about it. If you've been here for the last few weeks and stuff, you know I've been struggling with these live streams. I record them on my phone, and then I upload them to YouTube. And when you upload them, it goes through this processing thing. And it processes, and then it uploads, and it processes again. And then it's in your YouTube library. Well, while it's going through that processing, you guys can still watch these live streams because it's already been shown. So it's already a video out there, but I have to go through this whole processing thing to get it saved in my YouTube account. There's some type of a glitch, and it's not just me. Other people for the past year or so have been having problems with this, and it's a kind of a random thing. Not all the live stream channels are having problems, but it's getting stuck in that first part where it's processing, and it just says waiting, waiting, waiting. So it's sitting on my phone, and I can't get rid of it because when I tried last month, it deleted the video. So if you've noticed, there was a re-upload of the last live stream, whichever one we just recently did, when I was crafting and chatting and stuff. I re-uploaded it, and then I deleted the original live stream, because if I delete it off of my phone, it goes away completely. Now, if I just leave it there, from what everyone was saying in the different tutorials and videos with people trying to figure this out, if I leave that live stream waiting, 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 this live stream won't go up at all. It's going to freeze this one, and no one's going to be able to see it. So the process that I'm having to do now for into the future until they get this fixed, it's kind of hard to contact YouTube unless you're a really large channel. You don't have like a contact person, and they don't have emails and stuff like that that you can get to them. There's certain places you can go, and I've gone to those, most of those places to chat with people. So what I'm doing is we're going live now, and when I get off live, I'm going to download it to my computer. Now that's going to take a couple hours, anywhere from 2 to 6 hours. And then I'm going to re-upload it as a re-uploaded replay of this video. And once that new video goes up, I'm going to have to take this one down. Now, all that means is some of you are going to watch it this weekend. All this probably won't happen till Monday morning when it's totally finished. So you guys can watch it as is this weekend, and you'll see the live stream comments. But when you start watching it later in the week, like Monday, 2 weeks from now, maybe even 2 years from now, all those comments that you guys are making now are going to be gone. So there's going to be 2 of these videos up at one point. I'll delete the first one and the second one. So you don't have to watch the live stream again, but I want to make sure it's there because we're not just hanging out chatting, we're doing a project. So there's that. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask me, email me, whatever. But eventually, in a few days, the live stream is going to go down and it'll be re-uploaded as a standard video. All right, so let's get on to our project. Let me remember, this is from the Solux blog. It's a mother-daughter team that has designed the 4, well, she made 3 of these little 9 patches where they put hearts on it. I wanted to see what mine looked like if I put them all together. And when I was doing it together, I noticed that all of the pinks, they just look like too much of a blob together. So I put this light purple thing in. And then I wanted to put a big purple heart on it. I didn't, instead of doing the long strip here and the 2 strips there, I ended up having like 4 of them, well 3 of them and the 4th one come to the center. So I have a little bit of a blob here. And I just didn't like the way it looks, so I put the heart on it. I wanted a heart anyways, and I didn't want to cover up all of that. So there's that. That's what I did. So that's what you guys see. Thanks, Gwenny. It is what it is, and we're just going to have to. Yeah, I have to do the live streams on my phone for various reasons, and one of them is that my internet is not the best, and the internet on my phone is through Verizon, and it's great. And I do all my editing and everything on my phone, and then I just finish it off when I put like the tags and the title and all the fancy stuff and schedule it on my little computer. All right, so yeah, if you guys see when the moderators, if you could, when you see people that needed to be approved for their comments, can you click those little 3 dots on the side and see if there's a way to take them out of their little comment jail? I'm not sure why some of them aren't able to comment without permission, and other times they are. So in case they got blocked somehow, can you just see if they're blocked and then unblock them? I've looked on my end, and after the video, I can't see where they're blocked anywhere. It's just something that's happening in our little comments right now. So I was thinking with this project, it's going to be great for Valentine's Day, yes, but it's also good for any of the holidays because I used mine with the pinks and red. This was a fat quarter set that was sent to me. It's a Riley Blake fat quarter bundle. and it's red 12. So it came with a variety of them. I have a couple extra. I have this the backing fabric here. I also saved out these two because one, I didn't want to deal with the stripes, and two, I love the polka dots, so I kept those separate that I can use in another project. And check this out. Definitely going to be saving that salvage for something fun. But you can do this in any color you want. You can do them, we're going to do them separate so they're kind of be a square mug rug. You could always adjust things. If you wanted a larger mug rug, you could put two of them together. If you just had the one square, you can make your 9 patch and then maybe put a piece of fabric over here or on this end of it to put your coffee or your cookie on or something like that. So you can have just a plain pink or red fabric over there or whatever holidays and color you're using. Yeah, I think these are really cute fabrics, and Riley Blake does a really good job. A lot of these are directional. This one has words. This one has the hearts that are the gradients that go all the way like this. I just chopped it off at the top and used what was there. But then it had polka dots. It has these little flowers that are all different directions. There is a definite left and right, so you can't turn, like the hearts, you could turn them sideways, but then, you know, you'd have sideways hearts. So I was trying to be careful that anything that was in a semi-direction, that I kept it going in the right direction, like all the different words and stuff. So you figure I've got the fat quarter bundle, and I think there is 12 of them in here because it's a 12 whatever. So I was able to mix and match them all up. I cut a bunch of 2.5-inch squares again to use for today's project. So I'm going to set this aside. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go through, I'm going to make one entirely from start to finish. I should be able to do the piecing, to applique the heart on, show you how to cut your backing and your batting and all that. We should be able to get it quilted and put the binding on. And hopefully if we do it all before 2 hours, I won't have to plug my phone into the charger, because the last time when we went past our 2-hour mark, my phone was almost dead. So we got to keep an eye on that. So by 2 o'clock, I've got to plug everything in because the battery will die on everything. So before we get going, does anyone have any questions? If you either tag me in it with @RsIslandCrafts, it'll pop up in a different color so I can see it, or you can do some capitals, whether it's just my name or the whole comment, and if I don't catch it, someone just keep yelling at me or repeating it until I see it, because I'm going to get involved in doing this and I'm going to try to look up, but I don't want to be doing this. Okay, big pause, reading. Okay, big pause, reading. So I'm just going to let you guys chat away and do your thing and have a good time. I splurged and I've got myself a caffeine-free glass of Coca-Cola today because it's Super Bowl weekend and birthday weekend. Before I get to any ironing, I have my old wooden pressing mat that I have. I didn't get rid of this. So I'm going to put my wool mug rug, my wool pressing mat, because it's not a mug rug, on top of that. And that way any of the steam and the moisture doesn't go through and do anything damaging to my table. I don't mind, it's my crafting table, but I definitely don't want to have any weird warping spots or anything like that. Move all my stuff away. I've got the sewing machine as we get going. Just put myself down here in this little corner. So here is my 4 little projects that I've already laid everything out, and I decided that I really liked the way I laid them out yesterday. So I'm not even going to bother with recreate, putting in new things and moving the little squares around. I'm just going to go ahead and do exactly what I got here. Let me see. You guys can see enough. You're good. So I'll pull this guy out. Snack that uses all the space. Oh, the snack. Yeah, that'll get you in trouble. You need to make a really large mug rug. I like to have a variety of things too. Sometimes I don't snack on just one type of thing. Or if I'm having something like a trail mix, I like to separate my snacks out so that I'll take a trail mix, I'll put the peanuts over there, and the M&Ms over there, and the pretzels over there. I don't eat them all mixed together. Okay, so since we are trying to get myself organized here, we're doing a basic 9-patch. There are many, many ways to sew a 9-patch together. And you can do it any way you want, or whatever works for you. I am using the 1/4 inch on my sewing machine, and it drops down to 2.0 stitch length. Thank you, Stephanie. We have another one. I think it's Nikki that has a birthday tomorrow also on here. Big birthday day tomorrow. They're even throwing this really big party up in Tampa, Florida for me. Big old party. They're calling it the Super Robin Party. Yeah. We're actually big Tampa Bay fans, so it's kind of exciting. And of course, my daughter is happy to go to her best friend's wedding, but at the same time, she would have been more happy to actually watch the Super Bowl. She's gone up to a few Tampa football games, and she says it's really exciting to be there. Although you can't really get in on a regular basis tomorrow. They're only letting certain people come in, with the whole COVID and all that. Oh, the 15th. Somebody has a birthday tomorrow. Oh, somebody with an M. Someone has a birthday tomorrow. Too many names have gone by and I don't remember. I apologize. Oh, no, we're Buck fans. We've never been New England Patriot fans, and we're kind of iffy on Tom Brady, but he is now part of the family, so when someone's part of the family, you allow them in, and then you just stare at them for a really long time to make sure they behave. We'll see how he does. I have this worry that Tampa Bay has, up and down. They've been to the Super Bowl before. They do a good job. They don't do a good job. And they can't play in cold weather, so it's nice that they're in Florida. But I really don't want them to come in and say, well, the only reason Tampa won the Super Bowl, because I'm hoping they win, is because Tom Brady's there. I mean, that's going to take it away from everybody else on the team. And they keep changing up the coaches, so hopefully they'll have a good combination. And if Tom Brady does help them win the Super Bowl, all I got to say is, yes, you need to have an amazing quarterback, but somebody's got to catch that darn ball and run it down into the end zone for a touchdown. So it's not all the quarterback, and it's not all everyone else. It's called a team for a reason. Yeah, give him the stare. Are you behaving? And it will be interesting to know if Tampa starts getting in trouble for cheating and stuff, then you'll know it was a Tom Brady thing. And if they don't get in trouble and New England Patriots still get in trouble, then you know it's more of a coach thing and not an individual player. So, all right, no football. We're going to start sewing. I am using pink thread just because why not? It's a Valentine's Day thing. What I'm going to do is, when I sew a 9-patch, I kind of do a web thing when they show you how to stitch a web. I don't disconnect anything. I like to keep it all connected. Sometimes I use a little bit more thread, but in the end, I think sometimes I also save a little bit of thread. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this top row and move the center over onto the outside one. And I'm going to stitch my 1/4 inch, my little clippers. Open up my little thread bucket. Sometimes people have to put a little, if you're doing the leader ender where you have an individual block you're sewing first, or if you just have scrap fabric, I always call it a piece of spider fabric because of all the threads on it. Sometimes that helps to keep everything from getting sucked down into your machine. I hold my thread so I don't get a big thread mess. I've had some questions about that in the past. Since we are going to be sewing over all of our lines for any of the new stitchers and the new quilters out there, I do not backstitch at the beginning or the end of my patchwork because eventually I will be sewing over the majority of these. Yes, the ones on the outside won't get stitched over again, but we're not going to be turning this right side out and flipping it around, so there shouldn't be any tearing and opening up of the seams. If your stitch length is small enough, not too small, but small enough and not too loose, then you should be fine. Oh, see, I'm not prepared. I just was in a daze this morning. Let me put my little mat underneath here. The machine doesn't sound too loud, but why not add a little cushioning? I'm really in the mood now to make a little mat for my sewing machine, so we might be doing that pretty soon. Now, to keep me from getting confused, I am going to cut my thread. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to take my third piece, the top right row, and I'm going to lay that down. Make sure all my directional fabric is going in the same direction. This is going to keep this row together. I'll let that sit there. Now, when you do a true web, you'll go all the way down the 3 rows, and then you'll add this row. And we can go ahead and stitch one more and show you that way, but I'm just going to do it this way first. Just the way I was doing it yesterday, because I always get confused. My pieces always get moved around. Nothing ever stays the way I wanted it. So I thought I'd try this yesterday. Then I'll take this one off, and I'll put it right back here on the top. Don't spin it, don't twist it, don't do anything. Now I could do a whole bunch of different fancy things, but I'm just going to take it nice and simple. If I use a little extra thread, I'm using the thread cutter, so I'm not using too much thread. Uh-oh. I don't know what's going on with this pink thread. It's just not happy. I know my needle is not old. I just replaced it not too long ago. I mean, maybe it could be. I did sew a bunch of those jelly roll race quilts. Maybe I need to change out my needle. But ever since I put this pink thread in, I've been struggling with breaking of thread. So what I can do is, if I wanted to, you know, after this video and stuff, is I've rethreaded it. I can change out my bobbin thread. I can put a new needle in. And hopefully that will fix all of those problems. But for right now, I'm just going to wing it. Two and a half inch squares. Yes, for this project, we're using 2.5 inch squares, but you can do anything you want. This is just going to make a little 2, 4, 6.5 inch square project. It's going to make just one of these sections. That's just only because we're going off of the design that's on the blog that's linked down below in the description box. But really, once you figure this out and you get a hang on what you're doing, a handle on what you're doing, you can turn this into anything. You can use larger pieces. You can make much, much more of these. You can turn this into a king-size quilt if you wanted to use up all of your scraps. Now, of course, I have not plugged in my iron, so I can't do anything. So while my iron heats up after I plug it in, I'll show you how to do the actual web so everything stays together. All right, let me set these sides guys apart for a minute. Plug in my iron. So those of you who remember, I had a blue iron in the past, and then it died, and I told you I was using my son Justin's iron that he bought for doing dress shirts. I didn't quite like it. Every time, there wasn't a lot of steam here. It was more of a vertical steamer, so every time I picked it up, it would steam my wall, and I wasn't steaming my fabrics. It was kind of heavy and big and clunky. So I found out that I had purchased this off of Amazon, so I just went and bought myself a new one, identical to the one I bought before. The only problem is I was basically an idiot this morning. I've used this for a few days now, so the little red light here was blinking. So I thought, okay, well, when the red light stops blinking, it turns green. Green means go, and I'm ready to iron. So I kept watching it all morning for like a half an hour. It never turned green. So I thought I got a dud iron, like there was something wrong with it, but it was perfectly hot. No, I was just an idiot thinking if it was red that it would turn green. There's only one light bulb in there. It only goes from flashing red to solid red. Totally crazy. But we all have those moments, right? I can't be the only crazy person here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a little bit of a web on this one. And this is a way to keep all of your 9 patch, 16 patch, however many you're doing together, so that it'll all, you can actually do an entire quilt this way if you want to and you have enough space and all that. But I am the same type of idiot, seriously. When all else fails, read the directions. I went online, I was searching everything. I couldn't figure out why no one was talking about the green light. And then it dawned on me, darn it, Robin, there is no green light. So now I'm going to make this simple 9 patch, and I'm going to do it in the web design, and I'm not going to press until the entire thing is all stitched together. That's going to hold all of my pieces together, so if I have some type of an intricate design that I really worked hard to get it just a certain way, if I'm doing some type of like a pictorial puzzle quilt, when you're all done, it kind of forms something. So I'm going to take all my center ones and just flip them over to my left. I'm going to stitch this together, and I'm going to chain stitch them. And I'm not going to stop, and hopefully my thread won't break and things will be good. So chain stitching them is just picking them up one after the other and not stopping. They're all connected basically by the way your threads connect. It looks a little bit like a chain. This works really well with 9 patches of any size, and it does work in larger squares, but it's really fun to do at 9 patches. Then of course I will stop and cut it here, and I'm going to lay it down, and I'll open up these. Now I'm going to take the right one from the farthest column and move it all over so everything is staying perfectly in the center. Actually, let me leave these 2 here because these are all connected. I'm just going to put the first one on because otherwise they would all fall off. The reason I wasn't doing it with the other ones is I don't like to not press my blocks. I like to have it pressed so I can put my seams in either direction, and it just makes it easier for me. But this works perfectly well for a lot of people. Now the next one's in line. If it gets spun around or twisted, you can just spin it around. You can't get it flip-flopped in the wrong direction. Make sure my heart's going in the same direction as my writing. Again, open up my third one. I find with these little stickers on my nails, I'm having a hard time grabbing things, and it's probably just because I'm not used to them. They're a little bit thicker than I would have for nail polish. Okay, so now these are all sewn together in their columns. And what you do at this point is you're going to flip this down, and as you're sewing, you're going to just put your seams together and flip them in the direction that you want them to go so that they nestle together nicely, but you're not going to press it. So this works out really good if you're really pretty well established at sewing and everything, and you can feel that, because we're not putting any pins in, though you could if you wanted to. Just make sure that everything nests neatly, because we want to, for this project it's not going to be that big of a deal. We can cover everything. I'll put a heart if it doesn't look good, but we want to make sure we do our best. So there's those 2 all sewn together. This one's good. This one's pretty darn close. I'll pop this one on. You can always check which way your seams are going. So these on the top are all going that way. I'll put these going the other way. I also find it a little bit difficult to get it all pressed neatly afterwards. Make sure your machine doesn't flip your seams on you. It's not a crisis if it does, but it causes a little bit of a lump. So there you go. It's all stitched and you haven't pressed anything. So now you can come through. See, so these are all going in this direction. So I'll press these like that. Same thing with these. The center is going that way. So then you can push it out one way, push it out the other, give it a nice good, if you want to steam it up a little bit, I'm a steam gal. Oh, and Justin's iron, okay, this is just one of those silly little things, but right here on the left is where my steam is. On Justin's, the steam button was on the right. I kept shooting water out all the time because it was in the wrong spot. So there you go, there's your 9 patch. And it's done in that web chain. So it's all set. The little corners they're pretty good. If we get up too close, you're going to see if there's any little bit of an issue. But it works out really well that way. But for me, when I was doing it yesterday, when I was sewing it yesterday, I think I kept the last line connected because I remember having to snip these. But when we doing it, we have all our 3 rows together. What we want to do is we want our seams to either go to the inside and the outside and the inside, or vice versa, however you want, or you want them all to press to the left and all to press to the right, so that they're just going in opposite directions. And that's going to allow you to nest your seams, and it's going to cut back on all the bulk you're going to have. For this project that we're working on, if you're just a beginner, however you get yours pressed, as long as you have everything that comes out to be 6.5 inches and you don't have anything where like extra fabric got folded over it, that you have a nice seam right there, that's going to work. This is just one little 9 patch. It's going to be in just a fun little project. This is a great way just to get started on doing a little bit of quilting, a little bit of stitching, just to see how everything goes. Let me see. Go this way. It helps you learn how to check your 1/4 inch, how to sew your 1/4 inch, how to nest your seams. Did I do it right? Nope. Maybe. Ay, 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 carambas. I had it right. And then to the top. So these little projects are great for starters. It's for you as an adult, whatever your age is, or if you're teaching the young kids or the siblings. You see with my 9 patches, because I didn't have an exact amount of darks and lights, I tried to put the darks and then the lights, and then I just did the best I could, so that on my other project, when I put 2 of them together, it went light dark, and I tried to make sure that I did the best I could not to get too many colors together. So then we just do the same thing. Let me show you how to pin this, because we have people watching at all different levels, and I just want to make sure that we get all the little tips and tricks for everybody. So we're going to take our top one and we're going to lay it down in the center, and when I say nesting seams, let me come in and visit you. Okay, so I have one seam coming this way and one going this way, and if you wiggle them with your fingers, you can feel them just settle in like into a groove, and then it's tight and they don't move. So I have the one this way and the one this way. And then what you can do is you can put a fancy clip on it. And on the next one, if I want to, I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it. And I just go off to the side. I like to pin mine diagonally, no real reason. You could, if you were doing something very, very detailed and intricate, I would put a pin on the right-hand side of it, and I would put a pin on the left, and that's going to hold the seam allowances down, and it's going to make sure nothing gets pulled and twisted there. Now, this is going to give you a lot of things to put in and remove while you're sewing, but here's the thing. If you sewed all of these, and then you looked and you're like, oh, darn, I'm off by a whole 1/4 inch here. It's obvious, it's ugly, I can't handle it, I need this to be perfect. Now you've got to take your seam ripper and remove all of those seams, fix whatever it is, pin it again, and re-sew it. So if you take a little extra time, I've learned this the hard way, I didn't like pinning, but if I take a little extra time and add the pins now, I won't get frustrated and have to take everything apart and redo it. You can go nice and slow, you don't have to go super speed, My sewing machine has turtle to a rabbit with 5 little dots in between. I like to do it on the rabbit because I like to just sew super fast. But go whatever your speed is, because the person you're watching, probably like me, I have been sewing, I don't know, at least, what are we in, 2021? So I've been sewing probably at least 20 years. Hold on, I got stuff popping up. Come on, YouTube. Oh, it's going to stay there. So don't always feel like you have to compare yourself to that person. Like, there are so many people out there that are making award-winning, money-making, amazingly gorgeous quilts, but they're hanging on a wall in a museum or they're tucked away somewhere forever. My quilts, you can spill your Coke on it and your coffee on it. You can let the dog track mud on it because it can go through the washer. Dryer, no problem. If you add enough of a variety of scrappy fabrics, they might not even notice if someone spills cranberry juice on it and it stains it. I have used my quilts to cover a TV when moving. That does not bother me at all. I mean, I have special quilts, of course, that are not allowed for the cats. They have a lot of white on it. They were really done and made special. But most of my quilts are utilitarian and they're meant to be used and loved. Oh my goodness, it's going to drive me crazy. It was blocking off everything. Oh, Bonnie Hunter on Quiltville. She's got some amazing scrappy projects and quilts. So I'm just going to take this one. I'm going to bring my bottom to the top because it's easier to have 1 row on and 2 on the bottom. And yes, I'm going to be daring and just hold it. There's only 2 seams there. I'm going to hold my finger once I nest it and let it go on there. My machine likes to flip it. Now, if your seams are really close and you just need to adjust it a little bit, you can give a slight little tug on it. You don't want to pull on that bias at all because you don't want to give it a big tug and get ripples in here. But if you're really, really close, you can give a little extra tug on one of your fabrics and force it to line up. Because sometimes if your squares aren't cut properly, or if you didn't press them or sew them properly, they can be a little off. And there's that one. Now you can set your seams and give it a little press on each of the lines you just stitched. Again, small project. Some people like to press from the front, some do the back. I do both. Sometimes I do the back first and then the front, sometimes the front and then the back. But I always come back a second time just to make sure I don't have any of those tucks or ripples. And when I do press from the front, I like to hold it up. This iron is very, very steamy. Okay, so there's our 9 patch, and that's the basis of the project that we're doing. Let me know, are we all caught up? Does anyone have any questions? Do we need any help so far? Thank you. I'm going to take a drink of my fancy little caffeine-free Coca-Cola that's regular and not the diet version. Is very difficult. They call it a unicorn down here because it's very difficult to find. And when I do find it, I buy a couple of I buy 2 liters just so I'm not drinking a whole. Sometimes I can buy, you can't always buy a 12-pack of this. I like to buy cream soda, but it's really hard to buy it, so I save it and just don't drink it too often. I don't like to have soda very often, you know, just a couple times a month. Oh, yeah. Deanna, if you're talking about wearing a mask while you're like dusting and mowing the yard and stuff, it sure makes a whole difference when you have asthma. All right, so here is this one. We're going to go ahead and just use this. Now, we're basically done at this point. What time is it? All right, we got to get up time. I'm going to keep going. I have my hearts. What I did is I went online and I looked for a fun heart design that they say in the blog post you can use a piece of cardboard. You know, you can fold it in half and trace around it. But I just found that. I did trace mine on cardboard because when I go to do it on the fusible, it's a lot easier to trace around the cardboard than it is a piece of fabric. But I'm going to show you both ways just so you can get an idea of it. Remove my woolly mat. I am using, I just picked this up at Walmart a gazillion years ago. It's 5 1/4 yards of Heat and Bond light. So you want the purple one because you can sew through it. If you get the Ultra Hold one, you can't sew through it with your sewing machine needle or even a hand needle. So now I want to be able to go ahead and stitch my heart down and quilt it and stuff, so I'm going to use the light. Now you can use the Ultra and just not quilt through it. It is a small project, so it can go without. And what I do is just to show you a little bit, because I am a scrap lady. I have another container in here of it too. But I have this little plastic bucket. I save all of these little pieces that I used from cutting it off from leftover pieces of the Heat and Bond and stuff. And what I use this for is you can use it if you're an appliquer for little small things like a little flower or something. But I use it for my fabric postcards. When I quilt my fabric postcard and then I'm going to put it onto that piece of cardboard, the cardstock that I used, the comic book board, I like to put a couple pieces of Heat and Bond in various places, and then I iron it to it so when I stitch around, it doesn't shift at all. So I just use all these little tiny pieces. You don't need very much. I might put like 4 or 5 of these little corner pieces on there. So why use my good yardage? I can save this for a fun project when I could take weird pieces like this and just use it for, you know, my postcards. So I always save my little scrappy bits. Now, whenever you're using a Heat and Bond fusible or any fusible like this, we're talking a mirror image. So if you're doing letters, you want to take an O, wouldn't matter, but like an R, I'd have to flip it upside down because we are going to put it on the back of our fabric. Then you turn your fabric over and put it down onto your project. So there's a couple ways you can do this depending on what you have. I can take the one, I traced around it with a Sharpie to make it darker. I can put it underneath. And you see how I can see through it? And then I can just trace it that way. Or since I saved the heart, I might want to use it again later. Get a pen. I can just take it and I can trace around it. Now I'm going to put it close to my edge, but I want to have about a 1/4 inch, give or take, around all 4 sides. When I trace around this, I'm not going to cut this out right on the heart. I'm going to cut my paper, my Heat and Bond fusible here. Thermo web might be another name, fusible webbing. There's a variety of types you can buy in different weights. Don't press too hard if you're like on a padded surface because it will go right through the paper, by the way. Then I have a pair of scissors that I use for just junk sewing and cutting and stuff. So when I cut this out, I'm going to be a little bit rough about it. I don't want to leave a whole bunch because I'm going to press this down onto my fabric. But again, scrap fabric person, so... Okay, can you see how I just trimmed around it a little bit? Now what I might do is if I was worried about it, I could trim some of this off here just to get it a little bit closer around the edges of my heart. And those pieces, if they're really small, I will just throw them away. But if they're even, I mean, there's not much to that. It's a little over 1/4 inch. I'm going to save that in my little bucket because, again, it'll be good for a project. Now, I could be more precise when I cut it out originally, but I'm just not taking that much time at the moment. For this project, if we're doing 4 of them, I would probably take it and I would lay my 4 out and I would just flip-flop it and trace them all out as many as I need, then cut out the whole piece. If you're putting it onto just one fabric, if you're just using like a red fabric, you can lay that whole thing right on your fabric. Now the directions on my Heat and Bond says no steam, so I just turned the steam off on my iron. I'm going to let you guys choose on this one. I'm going to use all 4 of these, but I've got red, blue, purple, and someone suggested white. What color do you think I should put on this one? We are making little 6.5-inch rugs. There's a mini heart trio from Solux. The pattern, the link below in the description box for the blog post. But basically, I made this with 4 of them. So we're just using one of these 9 patches to create a little bit of a, like a mug rug coaster type thing. Purple, 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 white, purple. All right, looks like we're going to use purple. As I said, they're all going to get used, so it's not going to matter too much. So I take my purple fabric and I put it right sides down. I want to put this on the back of my fabric. If my fabric, a couple of my pieces are a little bit close and tight, there's a variety of places you can get this. I have a pressing mat. This is Fons and Porter from Joann's. I use like a 50% off coupon. It's an applique mat. I don't have the little picture in here anymore that goes with it, but I do like to save the little tube. So if you put this down, you are going to protect your ironing surface, your pressing surface, from the glue. Because if you put this down here and it gets on your pressing mat at all, it's going to remain gunky on there, and it's going to get stuck on your iron, and it's going to turn brown and black and funky looking. I like to buy this. Now, if I were to buy it, I'd buy it by the yard at Joann's. In the roll, it tends to stay rolled up. I've tried unrolling this and unkinking it and stuff, and it always just goes right back to it. If you're using a little small applique, one of those little palm irons works really good for this. So read the directions on your package. It'll tell you how long you need to press it and such like that. You can put a pressing cloth on top of it if you think anything is going to get on your iron. A few of you have mentioned that you have 2 irons, or more than 2 irons. You have your nice fancy steam one that you use for quilting and pressing your blocks, and then you have an applique one, so if the bottom of it gets gunky, you don't worry about it. I do like to turn mine over and give it a little bit of a press. I put that where I won't burn myself. Now this is where you let it cool for a little bit, but we're going to be cutting right on the line. It's kind of hot. Now this is where we're going to cut right on the line, and the way we did it with this extra fusible web on the outside is it means that I know at this line that there's fusible all the way up to the edge. If this were a larger heart, or even with this one, if I were putting this in a quilt, sometimes this can get a little bit thick and it makes your block a little bit stiff because you're adding all this extra glue on it. So what you can do is, before you put this down onto your heart, so I have one right here that I cut out. What I do is before I put this on my fabric, I have my little seam ripper, and I'll just go ahead and cut a little slit in it. And I'll take a small pair of scissors, and I believe they call this windowing because you're going to make it into like a window. I'm going to leave a decent amount here because I want to make sure that my fusible is going, my applique is going to stay down. So I'll just take out this extra bit in here. For the little project we're doing now, it doesn't really matter because this is going to be a little mug rug type thing. It's not going to matter if it's a little stiff or crunchy. So I'll take this centerpiece out and I'll put this, if it's large enough, I will save it for another applique. It's so small, I'll just put it in my scrap bin. Save it for my fabric postcards. And then when I put this down on my fabric, I'm only going to have the fusible right here. Some people go really close, so they only have a 1/4 inch on either side of the line. I don't worry about it too much. And then this way, it's still nice and soft and flexible here, and you only have the fusible around the edges. So that's an option, but for something like this, it's not that big of a deal. Now that we've let it cool down enough, I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut right along this line. I'm going to try to stay on the line, but, you know, as long as it ends up in a heart shape, nobody's going to know if I wobbled a little bit because they're not going to see what you traced on it. This is on the back. Round and round we go. Now when you do it this way, it sure does make taking the paper off of your fabric, but we can still get it off easily this way. I don't use like nice sharp scissors because I am cutting through paper and glue and fabric, and I can feel, these are really old and junky, so I can really feel how hard it is to sew through it. Now for you true scrappers, I saved this, right? Because this is what I did with, hold on, I'm still here, this project. I took the outline when I cut my ant, so this is the same thing as this heart. So when I do another weird project, I'll just go ahead and put that down, and I'll have a nice little outline of a heart on a project. I'll just line it all up as neat as I can. You can't really see that easily where I snipped into this to start cutting, and then it just gives you a fun little thing to use. Now, of course, not everyone has to do that, but if you're one of those crazy scrappers like me, it's kind of fun, and it already has the fusible on it, so it's easy to put wherever you want. So I'm going to save that in my solids container, and I'll use that on a project. I need to buy some of that bird fabric for the back of my great niece's quilt. Did you get it from Joann's, and how long ago? This was actually sent to me by one of you amazing people. I just lost my heart. Oh no, I'm heartless. So I don't know exactly what it is. It almost feels, I know it's yardage, but yet it has this nice soft feeling like it was a sheet. But I know it's yardage, at least I believe it's yardage. So if the person who sent this to me, if you're on there, if you want to tell us where you got it from. Yeah, it keeps it from being super stiff. I really like having the outline like that. And it's also good if you're like going to be layering a bunch of things on it. It just cuts back on all of that extra stiffness. Part of that WW thinking, no waste, stretch the budget. Oh, like World War? Yeah, you know, I like also because this is going to make me think, like, how can I use this in a project? I can put this onto a zipper pouch. It's almost like reverse appliquing and stuff. So I have this nice square. If I think ahead and I cut my square out perfectly, and then I take my heart applique out of it, I can go ahead and sew this and put it on top of a light purple or something, a little zipper pouch or a coin purse, and it'll have that extra little element to it, and it just adds that extra bit to it. And as I said, with the adhesive on, it just makes life so much easier. So now I have this. So here's the thing. If somewhere along the line your seams weren't perfect, you can pop a heart on it. You can pop this heart anywhere. Now that I've made it, I don't like, well, I'm going to be fine with it. I don't like how, all right, I'm not going to mess with it because when you mess with things, it makes it worse. But now that I've got it, I'm looking and I'm thinking, this doesn't dip down as a heart enough for me. It didn't give me enough of the little, what do they call it, little butt cheeks up here, the little heart part. So I might do something a little different. I did find the larger one, and I think that has a nice, it has a nice little dip down into it. I like that. But this is going to be perfectly fine. I'm going to use it for this project, and it'll be great. So if you need to cover up any of those spots, you can go ahead and put it there. You can make your heart bigger, and you can lay it in any direction you want. Maybe not upside down, but that's totally up to you. This almost looks like, this version almost looks like a thought bubble. So you could put like those candies that you get at Valentine's Day that has a little writing on it. The conversation hearts. You could put a little writing on it. You can use a marker or something like that, one of those silver Sharpies or something, and write right on it. Now here's the thing. If we take this and go and put it right on it, say, oh, well, look, it'd be really easy to peel it off from there. If we start picking at the edges, we're going to cause fraying along here. It's going to be very noticeable. So I can take a pin or my little seam ripper. Let's be really fancy and do it with the pin. And if you just take it and you score it, just enough to go through the paper, but not enough to go through the fabric, it's really easy to tell. And it kind of, see how it just, it pops this out just easily, so I can just peel this right off. Now my fusible is pretty old, really, really old. So if you've noticed that, if you have really old fusible, you might not have much luck. But if you're newer fusible and you start to peel it off and you notice like a webbing of it coming off, like a spider web, that's the glue coming right off. So that means either you didn't press it long enough to adhere it to the fabric, or you were impatient like me and you tried to peel it too soon and you didn't let it cool. So if you let it cool, then you'll be able to go ahead and do this. I don't know that this one is brushed cotton. It could be. The owl bag that I made recently, that really felt like, I've never felt brushed cotton, but that reminded me of like those painting kits that the kids get that are a little velvety and that you can color inside. It felt like that velvet. So if that's what brushed cotton feels like, then that's what that felt like. This feels like really loved sheets that are nice and soft, yet, as I said, it came to me, it looks like yardage, like maybe they washed it. You know, some of you guys like to wash your fabric when it comes to the house. I leave mine unwashed, but I feel like maybe they washed it and then put it on their shelves, so it's been washed once, and it just has a nice soft feel to it. So now we have all of our paper off and we have the glue showing. You really, and honestly, you only have one chance at this. So you can kind of move it around and decide where you want it, because once you put your iron on it, you're pretty well stuck with that. So decide what block you want to cover up and what you want to see and what you don't want to see. Make sure mine has directional. All right, I'm just going to stick it there. I'll wake my iron up. Hey, it didn't beep. Maybe the newer model doesn't beep. Did you guys hear it beep? And then following your manufacturer's directions on the package, mine's got steam off. And it's like 5, 10, 15 seconds, whatever it is. You can heat up your, when you're putting it first onto your fabric like this, you can heat it up too long and burn it. It's basically just here as, you did hear a beep? Okay, thank you. I got too busy chatting. It's just here to hold it in place until you stitch around it. Now this we have to do machine applique. I can just take a simple straight stitch. It's hot. I could take a simple straight stitch and go around it, buttonhole stitch, zigzag, satin stitch. I'm not a satin stitch fan, but some people do like it. I broke 2 machines last year making masks. Now I need to buy a replacement. Which do you folks think is better? A Singer heavy duty, or I would go with the Juki over a Singer, but I don't know anything about Singer heavy duty. But I really do love my Juki. It's not the same model that you're looking at. It's a HZL F600. But from everyone's talking, the Jukis are really hardcore. They've got a metal motor and metal parts and everything, so it's made to last. And of course, you're going to pay a little extra for that, so if cost becomes a concern, I would just do a search on YouTube and see which ones, see if there's any videos about each one and see what people like about it. Oh yeah, isn't that sad? Because that chances are your old ones are mostly plastic. You can use a decorative stitch, yes. You can use any type of decorative stitch. Mine has a lot. Mine has 4 different sections with, 38, 40 stitches, 67. Wow, there's a lot of stitches. I often wonder if the F600 means there's like 600 stitches, but I think they have like 300 stitches in them, 200 to 300. So you can easily do that. If you were to just leave it like this and not do any type of stitching on it, and you just left it on your table and didn't use it, it would probably be fine. But you can't wash it unless you put something down. This will come up in the washer eventually. I like to, what do I like to do? I like to just do a straight stitch. I also like to do the blind hem stitch that looks like a heartbeat. I really don't like the satin stitch. I can't control it enough. And even when I practice a lot, I don't like that big buildup of thread. I do like how it shows, like if I were to do white around this, it would really make that heart pop, but I just really don't like it. And you have to have, if you're gonna do a lot of satin stitch, you have to have some type of an interfacing, otherwise it's gonna really pucker. But for a small one like this is only 6.5 inches. My batting, I'm using the 100% cotton batting that's needle felted with no glue in it. It's warm and white, and it allows me to quilt every 10 inches. So for this, I don't even have to quilt this. So you can go ahead and quilt it I'm going to do the applique quilting. I showed you guys how to do it before with a pumpkin, where I'm going to layer all my fabrics. I'm just going to stitch my heart down, and that's going to hold all of my layers together. Okay, so you can do some simple, if you're just beginning and you want to practice some of your stitching, you can practice stitching down each side of your seams this way. You can do a little bit of a spiral. What you can do, and just in general conversation wise, is before you put the heart down, you can take this piece right here and do all your layers and go ahead and quilt this in any way you want. Let's say you wanted to do it in a spiral. Get that all quilted, and then come in and put your heart on, and your heart won't have any quilting on it, and you won't be trying to, like if you're doing straight lines, you'd have to go here and stop, and then come back here and start up. So instead of having to have all those broken lines, quilt this piece first, then add your little appliques onto it. And we can still add extra around it there. You're going to see it in the back, but it's not that big of a deal. So let me clear out some of my mess here so that we can get to that point. This is the one we're working on. Guys, all go over there. Heat and bond out of the way. I did cut some of my batting in preparation. The nice thing about a small room is everything was within like 2 steps of reach. So let me trim up my batting. When we do our batting, if we're going to do any type of quilting, we want to leave a little bit around the edge. And how much you leave is going to be determined by the size of your project and how much of quilting you're going to do. If you're going to do a lot of dense, detailed quilting, I would leave probably 2 to 3, even 4 inches around, because some high intense, like when I do the matchstick quilting, all the really straightish lines, 1 inch, quarter inch apart, it draws it in a little bit, so it will suck your batting in. So I just leave a little extra. Now at this point, if you wanted to, you could do, as I mentioned, add an extra piece on it. You can put border fabrics around it. This is your project. Just because the blog posted it this way and I'm doing it this way, you can do whatever you want. I mean, I changed it all up. I didn't listen to anyone. I did what I liked. So if you're looking at this and you feel like it needs a picture frame to it, you can go ahead and add whatever color you want around it, depending on where you're at. So then I have this. I only have, because it's fat quarter, I only have the selvages on that side, so I'm going to leave it there. Now we have to put this, the fancy side down. This is sort of directional, so depending on where I put it, like if I want to have, I'm taking quite a Viking to you, I do not know what I do without you. Maybe I might want to decide if I want that donut in the center. And I can just put it there, trim around. As I'm trimming, if I want to save all these, I can trim a little bit this way so that I'm not cutting through any of the other designs. Again, your backing, you want to have it larger than your front piece. It's usually the largest piece you have. It goes, your backing is the largest, then your batting, and then your quilted piece. So I'm going to put that there. If you really want to make it so much easier, there's fusible batting that you can have. And there is, you can, for a small project like this, if you have fusible fleece from making bags and stuff, you can put that down, and that will keep everything nice and neat. A small project like this, I don't worry about pinning it, especially since we're not going to be doing anything fancy. If you give it a nice good press and you're using cotton batting or wool batting, it tends to hold it all together. But just to be, we'll just be fancy today, we'll pop some pins in it just for fun. Put one there. Again, if pins make you feel better, in the beginning I was such a rebel. I'm like, I'm not using pins. I don't need pins. I'm not taking that time. And now, as you see, as I'm chatting with you, I'm using pins. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a simple stitch all the way around as a little bit. On my other ones, maybe I'll do, since I'm doing 4 of them, I might do a different stitch on each of them. But for today, and I still have the pink thread in my sewing machine, come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Right. Did anyone else watch that? Bye, Helly. Crafty Gemini has the bird fabric. I don't know. Now, it's not going to be really a lesson on appliquing today. I kind of just wing it. I'll leave it at the 1/4 inch, but I'll line up so that I'm just 1/8 of an inch inside the applique. I'll take my stitch length a little bit larger. I'm going to go for a 2.6. I just want to make sure that I'm doing something to hold, come on. I want to make sure I'm doing something to hold that applique down. And then when your bobbin misbehaves on live TV, there we go. Good thing we're not a cooking show. There we are. Thank you. Got me worried about a battery there for a second. I'm like, what? If you have it so where your needle can be adjusted in the position of your needle, sometimes it's easier just to change your needle position. Oh. I mean, it's so funny. All I do is have stickers on my fingers, but I just can't get my fingers to work today. I feel like I'm wearing gloves. Okay. So simply stitch around. If you're new to stitching on applique, or you have an issue where you can't follow it very well, use the same color thread that matches your applique, so if you wobble a little, nobody's going to notice it. I'm using a light pink on a dark purple. We're going to notice it. I want to make sure that I go all the way down to the tip. Now, since I'm doing raw edge applique like this, if this gets washed a bunch, it will fray. Even with the fusible on the back, there's a really good chance that it's going to fray. And it's okay. You have to be okay with that. Otherwise, you can do needle turn applique. Whether there's a way to do it that looks like needle turn hand turning, but it's actually done by machine. Some days I just watch YouTube and just randomly search techniques like that just to have fun. Now, even I go slow. As you're going around a curve for the heart, if you're able to let your machine automatically go needle down, otherwise turn your little knobby to make sure your needle's down. You can lift your presser foot. If you want to be fancy and you have the little knee one that I never use for mine, just cause. And you just turn everything slowly. So if you make your stitch length smaller, and you take smaller little bites as you're going around, you'll have a nice smooth turn. There's ways to do like tiny little cherries so it still looks like a circle. We're doing a heart. We'll be okay. Once I get all 4 of these finished, they will be in my Etsy shop. I'll probably also put the big one in. Thank you everyone who's been checking out what I have. I know it's kind of empty. It's taken me a little bit to transfer everything over because I have to retype everything and do everything all over again to move it from Artfire to Etsy. And got a little busy this week. Miranda needed to go out and do some clothes shopping for the wedding. She worked so much she didn't have anything nice to wear. And I went out food shopping with Justin, chatted with Robbie, so it's been a very child-friendly week. Go. I'm going to trim it off the back because this is the actual back of my quilt now, my little piece. Let me give you a little bit of a, see? So it works out fine. It's going to be okay. You're going to put a coffee cup on it anyways, or a beer mug, or whatever you're drinking, iced tea. Nobody's going to see it anyway. any version of this one, this Juki HZL F600, there's a 300, and then I don't know if it's a 100 or 200 or 400, but there's 3 in the series. Crafty Gemini has a whole big video about it and everything. This is a really great model if you're going to go and do like really big detailed quilting and stuff. I love it for quilting. But I think if you just want to do something simple and you're just making small projects, you can save a lot of money and go down and get one of the lower models. I don't think you're going to lose all that much abilities with this, but this can go through a lot of layers. It's really heavy duty. I really love this machine. It's really a great machine. So now I need to trim this up, which means I need to find my cutting mat. Here we go. Now I'm going to put actual binding on mine, but if you thought ahead, you can use, I have a video on how to use your backing fabric as your binding. You'd have to trim out the batting, of course, but you can just fold it over and use that. I actually have enough fabric all around if I wanted to do that, but I don't. So I have my little 6.5 inch square. Let's see how this turned out. It's pretty close onto it because I only did that little bit on the heart. I didn't do any actual major stitching on it. Thank you, everybody. See, this is one of those things where you see a project that someone else does and you're like, oh, I like that. And you don't even have to look at the directions if you don't want to. And I don't think it's really like copycatting or anything. I gave you guys the blog post just so if you want to do it exactly. But you can change this up so easily. If you made a whole bunch of these, you can turn it into a tote bag. You can even use 12.5 inch squares for each one of these. And you would have a giant baby quilt and add a border on it. You'd be all set. You'd only have to make one 9 patch. Turn it into a disappearing 9 patch. I would probably bump up to the 5 inch charm squares to do it though. Okay, so I don't need any of this batting. This batting can go all in the trash. Yes, I know there's plenty of things I can do with that little bit, but you have to decide what you're saving and what you're not, and what you're going to use and what you're not. So I'm going to keep all of these. That's good scrap for me. Because I cut it so much larger, I have 1 inch strips. Then I've got 1.5 inches, so those will be great for string blocks. You can do this with a string block. So I have it, it's all quilted. There it is, that little outline around the donut, that worked out perfectly. So now let's talk binding. We've done binding videos before. Froggy went in and hello, hello. Hello everyone who I haven't seen that's popped in. I had my head down, I've been working hard. See, look. I've been chatting and we've just been doing things slow and it's been 1 hour and 15 minutes and we've already got to this point and we're going to put the binding on. So if this is something that you're new at and you haven't done it very much or you've been doing it a lot, you can go ahead and cut a bunch of these. I cut 2.5 inch strips off of all of my fat quarters. Instead of just trying to cut out 2 squares or 4 squares at a time, I just cut the long 21 inch width of it. So now I have all of these pieces that I can use for other projects, make a bunch more squares. I can use it for my binding. Normally I would make a different type of binding for a small project like that, but I don't want to really get into that today. We can always work on that another day, but I'm just going to go ahead. And we need to have our strips, you measure around it, we know it's 6.5 inches, so we multiply that by 4. What I would do is I would mark, if I'm doing a quilt, I'd measure this side and I measure this. They should be the same, right? So if my height is 6.5, and I know it's 6.5 here, so I need 2 strips that are 13 inches. And then mine's the same, so I need another 2. So I need 26 inches of binding plus the extra for the corners and whatnot like that. There's so many ways to bind it. We could simply do the kind where you put it here, sew it down, and all the way around. But I'm going to do the traditional binding, and I'm going to pick out 4 that I'm going to use because these are definitely long enough. They measure a little over 10 inches. So that's going to give me 40. And what did I say we needed? 24, 26. So that should be plenty. I really like this fabric, and I like the hearts, so that I'm not going to use that. So I'm going to use that and that. These are cute and everything, and when they're in a quilt, it's not going to matter, but it's not like my favorite piece, so I'm going to put that on. And now I feel like I need something dark again. So let's use these hearts. So I'm going to sew these together like we do with normal binding. Let's just clear it all out. More soda for Robin. By the end of these little live streams, I get so dehydrated. Let's see, are we all doing okay? Everyone's still talking, sewing machines and everything? Yeah, Nikki, this is a great way to do applique because it's so super simple. We just put our fusible down. I have another video where I did Christmas mug rugs. If I can, you can always search on my YouTube page for all these things, and if I think about it, if I remember all of the ones we've talked about without having to watch the live stream all over again, I'll put links down below for all these different things that you guys can see. Because I kind of went through a lot of it fast. So where are we at? So we're going to do our binding. So I do my, oh, so sorry with all the sews. I do my binding where you put them on the diagonal and you stitch them together that way. So, Robin, let's get these all stitched together. You could, of course, use one long strip of fabric and it would be perfectly fine. Maybe on this one, if I used that purple fabric around it, that would be nice. But I already have this and I don't have to cut anything special. I don't have to go in my scraps. This is my blender fabric, so it's 108-inch wide. It's probably less now since I've been picking at it and cutting out of it, but I really don't want to have to pull out a bunch of big yardage like that just to cut off a few little pieces. I don't have any in my scrap bucket. Speaking of scraps, I'm loving that you guys are enjoying the little fabric baskets that I've been doing. It's so much fun making them. I was talking in the comments with someone that she makes the little zipper pouches the same way with the little squares. I thought, you know, I've got to steal that idea because I need me some little zipper pouches with the fun colors like that too. I still have my triangle container here. I have another bin full of them too, but these are all the ones from my jelly roll that I haven't done anything else with. So that's got to happen sometime soon, but I'm going to keep cutting these. Wake up my iron. Rotary cutter. I tell you, I'm not used to working this. This is what I consider messy and cluttered for me. I do tend to clean, you know, I never clean as I go when I'm working on things around the house or whatnot. But when I'm sewing and stuff, I really don't like to have, I don't like to be all closed in and have all this stuff so close to me. As soon as we're done, the first thing I do is I pop on the TV and put on some type of a YouTube channel for background noise, and I spend a bunch of time cleaning up my room. It's messy, messy. I'm just going to take this around the corner. Keep chatting among yourselves. Oh wait, no, I got the little mat. I could put my little mat over. I'm not going to be steaming too much right now, so I can go ahead and just put it right down. When I do my binding strips, I like to press them open, so I press one way, I press the other, and that allows me to pop it open. And it just disperses it among your project when you're going around your quilt, especially for something this small. Now my patrons, I showed them how to do single fold binding on a little mug rug, so they already know that little tip and trick. And I'll take it, fold it over, wrong sides together. Now, some people say that they just stitched. I'm going to try that this time. They say that they don't press this and fold it and give it a good press that way. Don't iron it at all. They just take it right over to their project and stitched it down. So that way, wherever that side fold lands, it lands, and you're not fighting against that seam at all. Oh, what? Oh, thank you for the thumbs up, everyone. Yes, please. Thank you, thank you. If you thumbs up, it's like a birthday wish to Robin. You ever watch those vlogs where they always have you do something weird for a thumbs up? What are we sewing on that sews like a dream? Yeah, that's true, Nikki, but something small like this, if it doesn't work out that great, you know what you do? I'll show you how to make this. If you put this down and you've messed up the applique and you don't like what it looks like, you could just throw it away, right? But if you use something you like on the back, just turn it over. Now you can't see the applique. So it doesn't even matter. Thank you so much. So it doesn't even matter now what your applique looks like. So you practice on it on a small project that doesn't really matter, and then you're all set. So let's see, I'm going to sew mine to the back. To mine. Stitch length. Don't mind me while I'm talking to myself. I want to make sure that I'm not going to hopefully have it in a corner. You're supposed to put your binding all the way around and check to make sure it doesn't end up in a corner, but I don't bother. You have to practice, right? You can't just say, oh, I'm going to make a quilt today, and boom, you made a quilt, and it's perfect and gorgeous and beautiful. You might have got lucky, you might be that skilled that it happened. Never happens to me. So I practice on what I call ugly fabric. Like, this fabric is great. I love all the different parts of it, but there's certain things like Over the Moon with the gold and stuff, I don't really like that. And the Viking, I don't know. So I would use this as a practice piece. That's why I put it on the back, because you're not going to see it. So I practice on this small little thing. If it works, great. If not, I'll put my cup of soda on it and let the water condensation drip on it, and I'm not going to worry. So then when I've made a few of these, they get better and better. I can start giving them away as gifts, and then I can make a nice big piece in my fancy fabric that I really love, and then I'll have a whole quilt or whatever I want. But you've got to practice. So practice on something small that you don't have this big meaning to it. It's not your favoriteest thing. You're using your scraps or whatnot. It's like this. I've never done, it's so simple. Like, I've never not ironed it. So let's see how it works. I mean, I could end up with some weird little blip somewhere, but it could come out and work fine. I just noticed that I have to definitely keep an eye on, make sure both layers are being stitched through, especially after going around a corner. But beyond that, it's not that big of a deal. And it's not like it's a whole horrible technique. Oh, gee, Robin, you didn't iron your fabric. Well, no, but it's just something different I've never done, so let's see how it works. I'm not sure what big of a deal it is. It doesn't really bother me. Every project I make, I struggle with, and there's always little oops somewhere, so. I've been practicing making quilt blocks in free motion. Yes, oh, and you know the thing is, Carol, is I was not a master, but I mastered free motion quilting. I just took to it like a duck takes to water, and then I didn't do it for several years, and now my free motion quilting is not nice. It is definitely not pretty. So I need to practice on some tote bags and some placemats and things like that, some small things like you said. And you can do a quilt as you go. You practice on them all, and the best ones you can put together into a quilt, which is something we need to do at some point or another. Try out all the different quilt as you go techniques. See, I'm ending up in a corner, of course. I'm thinking with a project this small, it might be better to have one piece of fabric all the way around, or to butt the edges together versus doing the little miter at 45 miter there. Because everything is so small, before you know it, you're going to end up at a corner. I don't mind. It just adds a little bulk to the corner. It's not that big of a deal. I just don't like it in a quilt. I got it in 2 corners. See, when you get all little like, oh, Robin the Rebel, I'm just do what I want. Well, I do what I want, and then look what happens. I have problems. Now, I'm not going to do the fancy way where you match it all up. I'm going to do the one way where I showed you guys where you can tuck it into a little pocket. Because it's so small, trying to get everything to lay just right, it's going to be hard. Again, with a small project like this, it doesn't need to be fancy. Just needs to stay together. So what I'm going to do, so there's not a lot of places that we can all go, Nikki. Everyone is kind of like floundering, and we're all feeling kind of lost. This is one of the reasons I did the YouTube channel too, is I don't go to classes and stuff anyway, so I always feel a little bit lost and alone. It gives a lot of people, if you're on another time schedule in another country, and I'm sewing at 9 in the morning, but it's 3 in the morning for you, you can always catch it later, so you always have someone to sew with. I used to work 5 p.m. to 1:30 in the morning. So I would be like 1:30 in the morning, I'd want to like do something crafty, some knitting or crochet, and then I can go on to YouTube and hang out with my friends there. And even though it's no longer live, or it's been up for 4 days or 3 weeks or 3 years, I can still feel like I'm hanging out with crafty people, and it's a nice little community. I apologize. My sews are just like ums today. I'm going to take this. What do I want to do? I want to put this on a diagonal. I'll put this on a flat square because there's not enough room for diagonal. Just adjust as you go. If your first plan didn't work, figure something out. There's always another way to get it to work. You just have to change your expectations and change things around a little bit. And there's always a fix. Granted, sometimes the fix is throw it away and start all over, but a lot of times we can do something. Especially with applique. Applique is so great at just covering up stuff. I love scrappy bindings. I have my bucket of binding that I can use at any time. So just tuck it in. As long as there's no raw edges. I haven't done that way in so long. I really love the look of having it all meet up nice and neat that way. Because of my little 45, I always have the little bumpies. This binding is already going to bulk up this little coaster mug rug. Then I have a, you know what, I'm going to be dangerous today again. I've shown you guys before what you change out the little foot and you use that, can't think of the name of the foot, the edging foot, and it just allows you to go right around the edge and it takes it so nice and easy for you. Well, I'm just going to go do it the old-fashioned way. I'm going to fold my binding up so I'm past that stitching line. I'm even just going to not do it. You can do a fancy stitch here because let's use those fancy stitches. It's really nice to high-five Ann. I don't know what we're high-fiving, but I'll high-five you. Use up some of them fancy stitches. Test them out and see what they do. You can make yourself a little plain piece of fabric sandwich with just fabric, batting, and fabric, and just run it through all the different stitches to see what they do. I keep one of those in my drawer. I need a new one though. and I just try out different stitches to find which, for the project I'm working on, which stitch length and width and stuff like that I need for that project. Do you guys cut off all the little strings, or do you do like I do and just kind of tuck them into your binding and hope they disappear? So the edge foot would run right along the edge of your binding, and it would allow you to stitch 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch in, depending on where you set your needle. Again, small project. Sometimes I just have to cut them. I don't know what causes certain fabrics to fray more than others. I mean, I'm guessing it has to do with the way it's woven, but drives me crazy. I don't like when the threads pop through the seams and stuff like that. I fold my corner over nice and neat, check my little mitered corner to the best I can. Where's my third hand? Not that one. So my stylus is a double-pointed knitting needle. It allows me to manipulate the fabric and hold it all in there without sewing over my fingers, which I really appreciate. Because we're using the double fold binding, it is a bit chunky on this little guy. And if you're super new and super scared of binding, you can do a satin stitch, zigzag stitch all the way around. You can use any type of fancy scissors and clip it all around, but you can just let it fray. Make your little stitch inside a little bit, maybe 1/2 an inch, and put little clips along it like you would for a rag quilt and let it just fray everywhere. You can do that if you use a denim and stuff like that. You tuck yours in too? Good. So there's always ways around what scares us to fix a project for this very second until we can get more practice. Or maybe we just don't care and we're not a quilter and we just saw this one thing that we absolutely had to have. And this is the way we can do it to get it done. There's my extra from where I connected the binding, so it's a little chunky. This machine goes over those little chunky bits nicely. Crafty Gemini was testing it on jeans, and it can go through several layers of denim material. The number 12 or 15 always sticks in my head, but I don't remember what it is exactly. I just know it does a beautiful job. See, nice and slow. If there's something you want to do in your life and it's not, okay, if you're going to do electricity and you're going to like put electricity in a lamp and stuff like that, you kind of have to follow the rules. But if you're just playing with fabric and you're not like making a baby sling or something where someone's life is going to, someone could get hurt if you don't do it right. You're making a mug rug, just make it. Have fun, especially if it's for you. This is how I get a lot of my own things, because I sell things, right? And I give them as gifts, but if it doesn't come out perfect, I keep it for myself. And that's what my practice ones become. So I try to not use my best fabric, but I do try to use a fabric I like. So if I end up having to keep it, this is one of the corners that has the extra fold in it. There we go. You can put clips and pins around it and it would make it a lot easier, but yeah. You hear it clunking, that means on the back I went through the binding instead. This felt a little bit tougher to pull over for some reason. See, so not folding it, not pressing that edge, I don't see where it really made that much difference. It caused me more grief than it helped. My little needle, it just moves things around and holds it down for me. Now, I tend to show you guys any mistakes I make. Well, not any of them, but I show you my mistakes. And I do get comments and emails, and they're like, I don't know why you show everyone your mistakes. No one would ever know you messed up if you didn't tell them about it. But if I didn't tell you about it, how would you know that, one, I'm not perfect, therefore if you're not perfect and you make mistakes, it's going to be okay. And how are you going to fix it, right? So if you make a mistake, how are you going to know to fix it? So here's my little mug. And it turned out really cute. When I went around this corner, you can see it's not sewn down. I have a couple options. I could take it back to my sewing machine and just tack it there, or I could take a little hand needle and thread and just stitch it down. So I did have a mistake. I've had several mistakes in here, and we talked about some, and I didn't tell you about the rest. But this one's not sewn down, so I need to do something to sew that down. And I think for continuity, to make it all look the same, I'm going to stitch it down. But I could just as easily do the little binding tacking down right there, especially since it's on the corner. The extra bulk in that corner, it just got a hold of me, and I did not get it to hold it all the way down with my little knitting needle. It wasn't perfect. I knew as soon as I got around the corner and I couldn't catch it that I was going to have a problem. So I'll just go ahead and stitch over it. When it's washed and everything is all fluffed up, nobody's going to know. Don't anyone tell my secret, okay? And something like this, I may say, okay, well, I'll keep this one instead of putting it in the shop because it's not perfect. And everybody on YouTube saw that it's not perfect. But while I might not put this in my shop and charge someone money for it, I feel that that little mistake in me stitching over it again, because I did not stitch perfectly, there's a little line of stitching right there, I still feel perfectly fine to give this as a gift. I think it turned out great. I think it's adorable. You could hand stitch. You can hand stitch this easily, no problem at all. You can do that, and that wouldn't be anything of an issue. Whatever works for you and whatever makes you happy and it's your style, I say go for it. But so here are my two. I've made this one. We did this one totally together. I think this turned out really great. I love hand sewing small ones like this. I like stitching it to the front and hand tacking it to the back because I love doing hand embroidery and hand stitching and all of that. So I really enjoy it. But for little projects like this, I do it. But for big quilts, it takes like 4, 6, 8 hours for me to hand stitch the binding down on a large quilt. I think a lap quilt usually takes me 2 or 3 hours. And that's just too much. I don't have time for that. Plus, I really worry that when it goes through the washer that maybe my stitching wasn't perfect enough and it might come undone. But a little wall hanging, you're not going to wash it constantly like you would a baby quilt. Now, if I'm making one of those award-winning, stunning, gorgeous quilts to hang up and stuff, I'm going to hand stitch it and make it look lovely. But for this, machine stitching, it works perfectly fine. It gives it a nice little bit of a border and a frame. Thank you so much. I'm glad you all like it. Now, does anyone have any questions about this or anything else? But what machines are you using? We've talked about machines already, Joe Wood. Did you sneak in on us? I am using a Juki HZL-F600, and I love it. I'll even show you. Let's take a little look at this baby. Where are we at? Okay, hold on, guys. Block your eyes. Seasick time. So you see, these are all the different stitches that I can do. I can actually do a little bit of naming, a little cursive names, the little ABCs on there. You can't do like a major embroidery machine, but if I wanted to just put a little bit of something something on a bag, like an initial or something like that, I can do that. I played with it a little bit, and it's not really a thick stitch like an embroidery machine, but you can sneak a name in there somewhere. It's all computerized. It has all the little fancy stitches that you can change over. It has memory and stuff like that. It's needle down. You have the little gas pedal, the foot pedal. If I turn it on, I can have it so when I push down on here, it cuts my thread automatically. It does have the little knee bar, the little knee lift that you go in there. It has, I take it off for doing videos like this because of the space, but you guys have seen it with the big table on it. I've never wound a bobbin on here because I use the side bobbin winder. It's got all kinds of little gadgets and stuff that come with it. So you have different feet. You know, it makes buttonholes and all of that stuff, double needles. So it does everything that you would expect the machine to do. And then it has all the little fancy digits. I think that you're paying for this is the giant throat plate here for doing quilting and stuff. And also that it's powerhouse. It's got a lot of power to it and a lot of strength. It goes through a lot of fabrics. You can, like I said, denim, leather, corduroy, whatever you want. You're going to be able to sew it with this machine. You can, I would say test drive a sewing machine at a store if you can, but you can just buy them online. If you already know what you want and maybe you find it a little bit cheaper online, you can try that. But I think if you're going to be spending a lot of money on a sewing machine, like anything over $200-300 for a basic model, if at all possible, I say buy it somewhere locally, even if you're paying a little extra, because if you have a problem with that machine or a question, you can go into that store and check it out. If you buy it from Amazon, you have no customer service except for my machine doesn't work because it came to me broken and stuff like that. I heard Berninas are amazing. So that's what I think. I think, in my opinion, that if you're going to spend $800, $2,000, $5,000, whatever you're spending, is really important to buy local from an established place that's been there for a while, so that you have troubleshooting. You can call them up, you can come in, and you can do something like that. And I think it just makes a big difference. I think it really goes through phases. There was a bit where everyone in the world was buying Berninas. Then all of a sudden they're buying Jukis. And wait, brothers are really good, so let's all buy a brother. And I think a lot of it has to do with who you watch. Like if you watch the Quilt Show, they're a Bernina factory there. They all use Berninas. They show you the different things that the Berninas do and all of that stuff. So if you're really into watching the Quilt Show, chances are you're going to buy a Bernina. If you're watching someone else and they use, like if you watch me all the time and you watch me and maybe a bunch of cooking shows, you'll probably fall in love with a Juki because that's what you see all the time. I think we buy what we know. Jukis do have low ends and they do have expensive. Exactly, Jody. Okay, guys. That's about it for me today. I have no idea what we're doing for our next live stream. I didn't know what we were doing for this one. We will be past Valentine's Day, so I'm not sure if we might do a St. Patrick's Day project. Our live streams in March are on the 6th and the 20th, so we can do maybe... The thing is, like, as I said, this is a Valentine's Day project, but first of all, hearts are year-round. You could have used Christmas fabric or Halloween fabric. So I don't know. We'll see what we come up with. If someone has a suggestion, I would probably not leave it in the comments because the comments are going to disappear. Thank you, Carol. Tomorrow for my birthday, I plan on partying it up. I'm going to spend all day putting things in my Etsy shop. I was trying to do 10 listings a day, but then I got interrupted. You know, you guys wanted a Quillo, so I threw the Quillo together. I had it listed to do later on, but once I got my 5th request on how to make a quillo, I decided to just whip it all up in just a day and a half. So you got that video. I bumped all my other videos up. Thanks, Nikki. I hope you guys can all come back for the next one. Yes, thumbs up and subscribe, because you never know if I might pop on live at any given time. I did that recently. If I get a little bored, I might pop. I was thinking I might pop in live tomorrow, but I'm not going to. I've got to get everything listed in the shop. I want to make some honey mustard. I was going to do wings, but I'm going to do grilled chicken finger strips instead, because there's no bones with it. I might make some egg rolls. I want to have some nachos tonight. So most likely. You want to work with crumbs? You guys ask for a lot of crumbs, and I totally understand. But at the same time, my brain is like, you could have made this with a crumb block. I could have made this with 4 crumb blocks. So anytime you need a piece of fabric that ends up at 12.5 inches, you can put it as a 9 patch, a 4 patch, a full piece of fabric, a log cabin, or crumbs or strings. So they can be done in any way. But you want to do just crumbs? Should we do, I don't know. Let me see if I can find something fancy and get an idea online. Otherwise, I have to write it down. Hold on. Utensils. I found this heart online. Isn't that cute? So you guys want to do a crumb block with some type of a placemat or table runner. Placemat, table runner, crumb blocks. I'll see what I can come up with. If I can't come up with it now because not only do I need to come up with a project, but a lot of times, like I sewed this yesterday, I need something for the thumbnail, and I need to know that whatever I decided to come up with. Oh, you haven't seen the nails yet, Anne? I'm sorry. They're flamingos. Can you see them? I'm in a dark spot over here. They're just the stickers. I didn't put them on very well, but it was my first time, and I'm very pleased with them. Though that does bring a question. I'm looking at my fingers. I don't care what other people see. I want the flamingos. They're upside down when I look at them. I say flip them around so that I can see them. But yeah, so if I don't get the crumb placemat, again, Sue? I think I already got it. So if I don't do the crumb placemat right away in February, we'll have to push it off to March. Now, I don't have to show you how to make the crumbs, do I? Do I need to show you how to make crumbs? How about, tell me if this is along your lines of thinking. Have you guys remember, if you've been around here for a while, I showed you how to make a zipper pouch as a quilt as you go with all of your scraps? We can do a placemat where we do it's quilt as you go, kind of a log cabin-y crumb thing where we take all of our little pieces. That would probably be better, something small. I couldn't do that, Jody, because of the way the nails were cut. I mean, the way they were already done, I couldn't turn them around. Thank you, Isabel. We'll come up with something. I have it written down in my chicken scratch. I will come up with something. I will find some type of a compromise that it will work, and it's just not a whole thing of crumbs. Because if it's just a whole thing of crumbs, then we just have something like this. And now, boom, we've got a placemat. So I think we need to be a little bit more creative than just taking a whole big slab of crumbs and turning it into something. Like I said, I'll see what I can find. It may take me a little bit, but we'll come up with something. But I'm going to let you all go. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. And thank you so much for the birthday wishes. One more look at the fancy nails where you can't see them, but they're just blue. Okay, next live stream is February 20th, noon at Eastern Time here in Florida. I think it's supposed to be cold again next weekend. We'll see. The fair should be coming soon, too. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone. Enjoy the Super Bowl if you're watching. Go Bucks!